And for the first time, the Swans are onward to victory.
Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, a fan podcast of the Sydney Swans Football Club.
So to all you loyal Swans out there who just can't get enough of the red and the white,
fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved Bloods.
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. Welcome back to A Bevy of Bloods, the premier podcast of the Sydney Swans AFLW. You're joined as always by the crew from Sydney and a voracious Viking from Finland. I am Chris and this is Jen.
That's right, you lucky loyal Swans fans. Welcome back to the podcast. And remember, if you enjoy what you hear, make sure to give us a like and a follow. Today we're here to talk about the game against the GWS Giants. So let's kick things off with a quick game recap. Over to you, Steve-O.
Thank you both. Last Sunday at the beating heart of Sydney, Henson Park, our Swannies got back on the winners list, getting the Giants by 3 points. A very, very skinny win in the end, but a win. And 6-7-43 was us, 6-4-40 was the Giants.
It was such a fun game, great atmosphere, beautiful weather. Jen, take it away. What was your first impressions from the game?
Yeah, fantastic sunny day down at Henson Park, our beating heart. So only fitting that the Bloods had to take away that win, get that heart pumping. It was a fantastic start by our Swannies, like 2 goals for Grundon, which was her first and second ever goal in the AFLW, and then 1 for Ham in that first quarter. Really held us for the rest of the game. It really turned into a bit of a stalemate in that second, and then GWS came. GWS was surging in that third, and then it was a really exciting fourth quarter, actually, just both for both the teams, but also just women's footy. There was a lot happening in the fourth, and a lot of nervous bodies on the sidelines. So I'm glad we held on.
Steve-O, mate, it was the game never disappoints. Entertaining all the way. What did you see?
Oh, it was another early Sunday morning in Finland. I think this one started about 8 o'clock in the morning, which was better than the 6 o'clock the week before, but I'm looking forward to the coming one, which is in the middle of our day, which would be nice. I can get a sleep in. But yeah, it felt good to get a win after a couple of quite flat down weeks, and it was a funny game, really. Like, there was 12 goals in the game, 6 of those 12 goals in the last quarter, so like Jen said, the last quarter was heaving, and really I thought we could have been up by a fair bit more, even a couple of goals, 2 or 3 goals more at halftime. In that second quarter especially, our girls were dominant, and they were plus 10 inside 50s in that quarter, but only 3 behinds to show for all that dominance and really, really good ball use. And that meant that at halftime the Giants were in it. I mean, we're up by 14 at halftime. Really could have been 25 plus points and much, much harder to crawl back from there, and they almost got us late, but the girls did really well to hold them off at the end. And yeah, I thought it was a really nice win, especially without 2 of our 3 2023 All-Australians in Ali Morford and Chloe Malloy, and quite a few of our good players off injured for good chunks of time in that match too. So I really liked the way that the girls rallied round and really ground out a strong win to get us back to 2-2 on the ladder. Yeah,
mate, it was at the atmosphere of the game. You could feel that there was a bit of tension in the air for the beating heart of Henson Park. It was actually mentioned in the post-game conversation with Jen that there was an excellent showing by the GWS Giants fans as well, which is really great to see, because you want a thriving atmosphere over there. You don't want it to be exclusively one-sided. And I genuinely feel like the GWS girls were kind of spurred on a little bit by some of the crowd getting involved, and it's good to see the Swannies kick up, because, yeah, it would have been a pretty flat walk away from Henson Park if we didn't get that beating heart, but we got there in the end. Jen, I mean, it's good for us, and we've spoken about it a few times. Every single game makes such a difference to the ladder, and this one is no different. Beating GWS, knowing that they're going to be fighting for similar spots than us, it's huge for us.
Yeah, it's definitely, we'll take the win. Obviously, we didn't get as bold of prediction as you had last week for the percentage and the margin of what we're going to win by.
47.
But I think you're absolutely right. I had to tell the people I was sitting next to stop talking to me at the the fourth quarter in particular. I was like, are you not watching what is happening here? It is like, we had the first, everyone kind of relaxed a bit in the second. It was a little bit of an eerie feeling. It wasn't that loud. GWS crowd really got behind them in the third and they were surging. And then, the people beside me, I was like, I can't talk to you. Stop talking to me. I've got to watch what's happening. Are you not watching what's happening? It's like goal for goal here. Oh my God. But yes, we'll take that win. It gets us that extra 4 points. It does also help us jump up into that 9th spot. So we have moved up the ladder. But, our next game is up against the Bulldogs. We got down there at their windy home ground. They're also coming off their first win. So they're going to also want to continue their good form. But we need to take that big margin to stay in the race with the teams that are currently on 12. So as we said last week, there's a bunch of us sitting on 8. And so it's only one game away from those on the 12th. And then it's all going to be down to margin. And we've spoken about it so many times. There's just not enough games in this season for us to not take home a few more wins. We've got that 50-50 chance, I think, with the Bulldogs. We've got another 50-50 with Essendon after that, and I think they're sitting below us on the ladder. So anything that's going to pump us up into those higher spots and get us into the top 8, we've got to push for it from here on in.
With the exception of a couple of teams that are well good, we of course say Richmond, which we just played, the Crows, who are just dominant force, the Lions, Kangaroos. After that, it does we are in a bit of a mixer. Steve-O, the ladder implications, of course, the percentage, huge for us. And although we didn't make a dent in that percentage like I thought we might do, just to win, ladder implications, it's a really short season.
Yeah, it is. And like we chipped away 3 points off the percentage, but we're still a fair way off it. And when you look at the whole ladder, we're sitting in 9th, but 4th is only 1 win ahead of us, but then 16th is only 1 win behind us, and a lot of that is decided by percentages. So even getting that sort of 6 out of 11 wins, which is roughly what you think you'd probably be shooting for, it's probably going to be that plus percentage. So we want to get a couple of solid wins, and that makes me think about not taking advantage of times when we're on top. So when we won the game, we got 4 points, which is great, and we won by 3 points, which is exciting. It was a tight finish and everything, but as I mentioned before, there was a period, especially in the first half, we were really on top and didn't put much on the scoreboard. And if we want to get that percentage back to somewhere that's a bit more competitive for these sort of fringe of the 8 spots, really need to be banging on goals when we're dominating, I think. There was from about halfway through the first quarter to the start of the final quarter, we didn't score a goal, despite having a lot of ball in the forward half. And I think it was an interesting one because it was a home game for us, but it was like a Sydney home game, and the Giants were there first. They were there several years before us. And I'm a bit curious, for the two of you who were there, what do you reckon the crowd split was? Because watching on the TV, it sounded at least like when the Giants were doing good stuff, there was quite a bit of noise for them, but then the camera wasn't always panning to the crowd to sort of show blocks of people, and often they show the same blocks of people, so it's a bit hard to tell. But from sitting there, what do you reckon the split was, you two?
I'll just quickly say, and Jen, you can jump in. I think I would have said like an 80-20 split in terms of personnel, like there on the ground. And then I'd also I'd say in loudness, I'd probably say like about a 70-30. Like I think they really held their own in noise. What do you reckon, Jen?
Yeah, I was going to say I reckon 70-30. Probably even in the groups that we were in, it was probably four Swannies to 2 of them, so maybe 60-40, but yeah, they did make a little bit more noise than we were making for a fair bit of that game, so we've got to pick up our game. Maybe everyone's lost their voice from these last couple of weeks of just chaos with the Swannies. So
I have actually lost my voice, hence it sounds as rough as it does, and if you listened to the podcast last week, you would have heard how awful it was. It's only just coming back now, just in time for Friday night against the Dogs, and of course Saturday the grand final, so we'll see where we are. Steve-O, from the game itself, the stats that you saw on the mark, what did you think where could we have done better, or where did we succeed in?
There was a couple that I liked, a couple of those, and I've got a bit more maths for those who were listening last week. I've taken on some even more complex calculations this week. The first
division.
stat, which that's it. The first stat that stood out for me, and I've been harped on this a bit already. This will be about the third time, but this is a different way to say it. We had 41 inside 50s, which was a lot more than they had. We only got 6 goals from 41 inside 50s. That's not enough to be putting scoreboard pressure on, especially against the better sides, I think. Because what that means is it's going in there a lot, but then it's coming out a lot, whether it's through them rebounding or through a kick in from a behind or out on the full or whatever. It means that a lot of the time, and that's kind of tiring too. If you're a midfield and you're working your guts out and you pump it in there and then it comes straight back out, you got to work again. You don't get the rest. You can get done on transition. So I'd like to see more goals from inside of 50 ratio. But now for the maths. Last week, I bemoaned that we only had 35% of time with the ball compared to Richmond's 48, which meant that, and we agreed on this, and Chris checked the numbers, that he's going to check them again. I haven't warned him about this one.
Hey, you can see my hands right now. I've got no calculator on my hands. All right, that's it.
So that meant that last week against the Tigers, for every minute that we had it, they had it for a minute and 20 seconds, and you can do a lot with the football in 20 seconds. This week we had 42% of the time with the ball, and they had 41. And if I've added this up correctly, it means that for every minute that they had it, we had it for an extra 0.6 of 1 second, which is pretty close. What do you reckon, Chris? Am I close to the calculation?
I'd like to refer over to Jen. Jen, are those maths correct?
100% agree. That looks good off the top of my
Smashed
head.
it.
Maths is my
incredible
favourite subject.
I didn't realise that this was a maths podcast, as it turns out. So
it is. It's we're branching out. So what that means is that we didn't give GWS nearly as much time with the ball relative to what we had as we did the Tigers. The Tigers had the footy way too much, and they made us pay with it. This time we broke even pretty much on who had the footy, and we beat them by a few points. So it's a much better outcome in terms of time with the ball.
Excellent. Jen, what did you say to that? And especially, I'd like to hear what you've got to say about the inside 50s, as Steve-O said there, 41 inside 50s with only 6 goals to pay for it. What are you seeing from the game? What are we doing wrong?
Well, it was funny watching it back again. The commentators, I think, at quarter one were giving the girls a pep up that Sydney were, I think, number 1 in terms of efficiency in front of goals once it comes inside the 50s. So GWS really shut that down on us today. I think what I saw on the ground a little bit, quarter one, amazing. I actually thought, oh my God, here we go. We're moving the ball so well. The intent to move the ball by hand and foot, making those 45 kicks and then trying to bring it back inside. So many times I watched it and it looked like a set play that they must have done at training, and it looks so smooth. I've been giving them a little bit of grief in the last 2 weeks about no clean handballs and the other team just being cleaner with it across the ground in the kicks, marks, handballs, which with our stats, we actually, even though we had only 0.6 of a second extra with it every time, we were ahead in like
if the math is correct.
Key stats across the ground, like kicks 151 to their 123, handballs 108 to their 90, possessions, a big one, 259 to 213. We did have more hit-outs, 44 to 21, but clearances were absolutely equal. So Biso was a beast, actually, for GWS around the taps. I think that really came down to we really shut down Parker. We kept her quiet. Like Gardner, they said she had 11 possessions in that first quarter. Parker only had 1. I know that switched around in the game and that different players, my favourite, Gail Kennedy maybe went to her for a couple of quarters there, but then Whelan went on her, I think Bullets went on her, a few people changed in on her and really shut her game down. But long-winded question, there were then times in that second quarter where we had so much of the ball, we just moved sometimes too quickly. When we get a ball just outside of our forward 50, if you get that mark or a free kick or whatever it is around that forward 50 arc, sometimes you don't always play on fast. And I think later in quarter 4, there was one, Davies took a mark outside the D50, and I think Ham as well, and paused and waited. I think it was Davies actually did that kick into Cynthia Hamilton in that last quarter to get one of her 2 goals in the game. and they waited and brought it in, whereas a few times we went quick, it got smothered, or we went to take on the player in the mark and we had to do a weird handball back inside and that player was under pressure. So we kind of just didn't use our chances well in that second. But the rest of the game, chef's kiss.
Yeah, really interesting. I think I kind of noticed that as well, in particular with the going in forwards. So we were sitting in that forward pocket there for mostly 2 of those quarters. We moved around and we just noticed that the forwards didn't have enough time to kind of basically collect themselves and start off another lead or get themselves into space or find themselves in proximity. It just ended up just them like basically sprinting back and then having their heads turn as the ball started making its way in. And it's just a little bit too quick. And I think it's just it's similar to what we were saying before and what Big Boy McAvoy also said, a bit of a connection thing. It's like knowing your player, knowing how they work. They know Priv is going to work her ass off no matter where the ball's going to land, no matter how it's going to do. It's going to hit the ground, it's going to go up. It's going to be a 3-on-1. She doesn't care. She's going to go hammer and tong for it. But doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put her into that space. You can also kind of try to lead her into it and help her out as well. So I think some adjustments to make, but when you're getting 41 inside 50, Steve-O, I think what we're saying is that's incredible. That's fantastic. Now to polish it off
definitely.
By hitting those kinks.
And it's where you miss a player like Chloe Malloy too. I mean, we don't have her for the year, so we shouldn't whine about it too much because she's not going to be there. But she's so good at making that decision going forward, like whether to take it in quickly or whether to hold it up. And her not being there, I think, does make a difference. It's only been a few weeks without her.
Yeah.
Okay, big plays for the game or big girls of the day. Jen, what did you see out there? Who do you want to give a bit of love out to before we get stuck into the bob medal?
Bit of love. I'll start with a little bit of love and then I went on to big plays, and as usual I'm not very good at sticking to the rules, so I did 2 big plays. So I'll start with my love and then Steve-O can take it to his big play and then I'll come back. I hate the rules.
One.
There is no rules. I don't know what you hate. What rule are you hating?
I know there's an S on the end of big plays. It's not just one big play, but yeah. Player love. I thought again, similar to that Tiger game. I think we had a spread of players. I was so impressed that there were so many players who stood up at different times in the game. People who took like really important intercept marks. But I just wanted to do a big shout out, big love to Maddie Collier. Yes. Obviously, she had that big concussion a couple of weeks ago in that first game with Collingwood. I just think she's had 2 great big games back now, and her along with Lisa Steen, again, first game back for the season for her. They were huge in the third quarter. GWS were peppering. They got most of the fourth quarter, both teams got great goals, but GWS were coming in that third, and the amount of times that Collier and Steen put their body on the line and took some tackles, did the pressure acts, took some intercepts. I just thought they were everywhere, and I think they needed a shout out as they usually get undeserved attention.
Steve-O, what about yourself, mate? Love, big plays, more than one if you want, that's okay. You just want to make that clear, anyone?
I thought my favourite play, I've watched this about 20 times on the replay since, and it gets better every time I watch it, was Cynthia Hamilton's tackle at that last centre bounce to deny the Giants a last chance to try and get it forward and sneak the win. That was unbelievable. I mean, you two were at the game. I see it on the TV, and she comes from. I'm guessing she was lining up on the top of the square, coming in from our half forward, but because she wasn't actually at the centre bounce herself, and she comes in from off the camera. You don't even see her, and all of a sudden she's just drilled the Giants player, got the hold in the ball free, and that was the first part of it that I really liked. But then the second bit was how good she was then at not just panicking. She waited. She found a really good open player to the wing side of the field, kicked it to her, chewed another 20 or 30 seconds off the clock, and that was pretty much it. After that, the Giants weren't going to get their hands on the footy again and have any chance of getting it forward. So that play was huge, I think. And you talked about, Chris, what did you call it last week? The red ribbon of death, I think, was what you referred to Cynthia. Like that, yeah. So I think that's what you said. And that's what it was. It was just this red ribbon of death coming from the left of screen just to shut down the game. It was amazing. I'm going to watch it another 20 times the next few days, I think.
Yeah. There's one thing about her, when she gets the head going, she's hardcore. We know her. We just know how a tough unit she is. And this week, she was just on fire. Everything she did, everywhere she went, everything she was all about was just working for her. And so hopefully she takes that kind of confidence into the next game. And just as an idea, she actually made Team of the Week for the AFLW, as well as Brenna Tarrant, our own BT. I very much love BT. So really special game for her. Jen, anything else you want to mention about the game? We got stuck into the Bob medal.
Sure. I did my big play of the day, Plazer. The first one was one of our end-to-end goals. It's Grundon's second goal. That started all the way back with BT in the back line. Ground ball get, as she often does. Clean kick to Hurley. Hurley, another player who was just like phenomenal all day. Yep. She ran and ran and ran, and she's got some silky skills, little Hurley. She kicked it to McAvoy. Back inside to Hurley, kicked down the wing to Cooper, back inside to Hurley. She kicked it to the centre half forward and Davies, and then into Ham, off the toes, short kick, Grundon, second goal. It was just, I think that was the start of our momentum in that first quarter. She'd already kicked the first, she got the second. Ham followed up like 3 minutes later. But yeah, end-to-end stuff, and it looked, chef's kiss, it looked amazing. My second big play was very close in time to that lovely ribbon of death bursting through. It was
ribbon of death. Yeah,
the red ribbon of death. It was our other, not so much the ribbon of death, but the big body of death. So Ham deep in that fourth quarter again. She came out of the centre clearance, boshed into two players. They both fell off her, banged it onto the boot. Got it deep into that forward 50 and wheeling. That was a sweet snap. It was a tight angle. It was amazing. And the whole crowd went wild there. And I think that's when we were like, okay, I can talk to my friends now.
Relax.
Yep.
Yeah. The year of the ham, we've well addressed it. It is a real thing. We've looked it up. The stars are aligned around the symbol of the ham in the stars. One thing that I did want to mention for me, in terms of just players and play, having a better look at Holly Cooper. Big fan. I am really becoming a fan very quickly. So hard work, hard run, tough as nails, and she's got aggressive eyes. She's got these eyes that are like hunting people down. She's reading the play. She's learning. She's got the look of like it's hard to say, of like a velociraptor that is slowly learning. You know, that whole like clever girl moment from Jurassic Park 1. Great movie, but she's got that kind of vibe.
It's so good.
Exactly. So yes,
right.
Yeah. So that
I hope we interview her now and we can name that podcast just the Velociraptor.
Yeah.
The Velociraptor. I don't know, ribbon. I'm just a big fan of Holly Cooper. I think she's slowly becoming a bit of one of my favorite ones, and I'm looking forward to seeing her. She's going to be in the red and white for a long time, and I think that's a great thing because I think she's got a lot ahead of her. I think that's what the club feels as well. Okay, well, let's get stuck into the Bob medal, which is, of course, our equivalent of the Bob Skilton medal. We give 3, 2, 1 points out every week to a different player, different players of the day. And we try to have Jen and Steve-O talk it out. There's been some animosity that I've been trying to create that it's just not happening. And I'm not saying I'm going to stop this week, but I'm just saying, you know, it is what it is. So we are going to kick off no different to any other time. Maybe, Jen, do you want to kick off and tell me who the 3 points you feel should go to?
All right, I think we're in agreement here, and I think we'll be in agreement with AFLW and all the stats. It has to go to Gardner. I mean, she was everywhere. She got 32 disposals, highest on ground for both teams, 16 kicks, 16 handballs, 5 marks, 8 tackles, 6 clearances. She was dominating in there. It just looked like everywhere you looked on the ground, she was there. She just must have the biggest tank, but not only that, she's not that big, and she tackles like an absolute unit. She takes a tackle like it's just a fly on her shoulder. She just shrugs it off. She's just everywhere. She's pretty phenomenal. And I think what they said in quarter one, that she had, in those 10 possessions or 11 possessions, she was also at 80% efficiency. So,
oh my God, right.
Boss.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Massive. All right, Steve-O, how do you feel? Gardner, 3 points. Any comments from you?
Nah, she was a clear best. She was so good.
Perfect.
And if you haven't got her in your fantasy team now, it's probably too late because her price is so high. I reckon you can't afford her.
I did get her, so she's one. I'm still really bad at fantasy football. That much is not going to change any one given year, but I am proud to say that I do have her and Hurley and BT and McAvoy girls on my team. All right. 2 points then. Steve-O, I'll pass over to you. Is the animosity going to kick off, or are we going to tell Chris one more week to just calm down?
You might have to calm down. I don't know, maybe Jen doesn't agree. I thought that Cynthia, the red ribbon of death, was killing it for us. Like, she was so good. That's the best I've seen her play for a while. 20 touches, a couple of goals, some really, really big moments, even got a hit out to a name, which I thought was always nice.
Did they get confused with
a
a sister at some point, you reckon?
Possibly,
Yeah.
It's not impossible, because she was in everything. She was tackling, she got clearances, she had an absolute day out against the Giants.
Yeah, okay. Jen, any comments?
Yep, we're in our parallel train tracks for this one.
Oh.
And yeah, I loved actually seeing her go through the mids. I think that she had such a good game in there. She does seem to have that she's got fire. She's got fire in her belly. She's got some strength. She wants that ball. She wants that ball in her hand. So it'd be interesting to see her play through there more and just rest forward. She was ribbon of death.
Ribbon of
good
death.
Gal.
Good girl, the ribbon of death. All right. Now, when we get to the 1 point, this is typically where we see sometimes there's a bit of a misalignment where, it's come to my attention that there must be bets going down because Steve-O and Jen are typically voting for their own person. So I'm going to, you know what, just Steve-O, what do you reckon, mate? I'm going to quickly pass to you. I know you started last one, but who did you see?
This week, I don't care. The last couple of weeks, because I've been accused of wrongdoing, I have been avoiding nominating Sophia Hurley for the 2 and the 1 vote. She hasn't had her best on ground yet. I can't wait till she does. But I reckon Sophia this week was my 1 point. Although she had a really, really strong game. She got a lot of the footy. She was clean. Like, when she gets the footy, I feel relaxed. Like, even if the game is in quite a sort of scrappy, sort of crash and bash mode, it gets into her hands, and she just takes her time, and she finds the right options most of the time. She's a really classy footballer, and I thought this week, again, she was really effective, so she had my 1.
Okay, ball on the string. That's what McAvoy said before the season started. What do you think, Jen? Are you okay with Sophia Hurley for 1 point?
Look, should we disagree on it just for the basis of disagreeing on it?
Yeah, just for Chris.
Just for Chris. The funniest thing is the next player I had in mind was my girl Kennedy. So we're gonna fight on this again. She had some pretty great disposals. She also had the highest tackles on ground for both teams. But sorry to disappoint you, Chris. I actually think that Hurley's going to take it home this week on the number 1. Just when she had it, I think both players had some great moments. They were both often the people who were in the linkages up the field, but I agree with Steve-O. Hurley, she just ran and ran. Same thing. Whenever she got the ball, I don't know how many score involvements Hurley must have had, but she was always in part of that linkage and clean with the ball. Seems to have a bit of extra time when she gets it, a bit of a Pendlebury-esque on the field, just seems to have time, and we're going to have a battle out to the end of the year. I'm going to have to put my 2 cents back in Kennedy next week. She better step up.
We do disagree on our 4th one, on our almost got a vote, because you had Kennedy. Jan, but I had Tarrant. I thought that Tarrant was my fourth best that didn't quite get the 1 point. So that's almost an argument.
Yeah, we almost had that argument because I also had down as the next person. Again, we always talk about, we find it difficult. There's a couple of players on the field who look the same, and I think they might steal each other's disposals every now and again, because I thought Ella Heads as well just had the ball all the time, and considering she came off with the blood nose in the first quarter and just came back on like nothing happened as well, she's solid back there. But sometimes I'm like, is it her? Is it Bullis? Is it Whelan? Is it... so... Happy days, just a spread across the park on Sunday.
It was good. Well, I got one good stat on Brenda Tarrant actually. Listen to this. She had 12 intercept possessions, and our next best was Gardner with 6. So she's got double our next best, which shows just how valuable she is, and especially in a game like that where we were defending pretty grimly and trying to stop them getting a run on. Towards the end, having someone like her floating around makes you feel good every time the ball gets forward to centre.
Yep. Yeah. If it goes in the air and it's close to her, she typically reads it better than most.
Oh, she reads it so well. Yeah, I'd love to watch her live. Actually, I only see her on the TV, but yeah, I'd love to see her positioning live.
Yeah, she does the work early.
Yeah, exactly. She puts the bump on early as well and gives herself space. But the bevy is once again asking Ella Heads to just lighten up the tint so we can see the differences. Okay, so if anyone is friends with Ella, firstly, we love her. Please tell her that. But secondly, ask her if lighten the tent a little bit might help us out a little bit in that back line, especially. So you see her, and hey, she might get a few more points. We know what that means, and get that going. All right, so 3 points to Laura Gardner, 2 points to the Red Ribbon of Death, Hamilton, and 1 point to Hurley. No worries, lock that away. As we move on to the next game, we also want to make it really, really clear, and I want to make sure everyone hears me very clearly here. The Swans are playing down on Friday night at Whitten Oval in Melbourne against the Bulldogs. If you're going down to the grand final for the men's, you must go see the women's on Friday. It is going to be a cracker of a game. It's going to be a great showing of Swans fans. And again, tickets might get out of control. Back in 2022, when the Swans had just started, we were playing Hawthorn there at Punt Road, just down the road from the MCG. And it was members entry only and members to the AFLW Sydney Swans only through, because it was filling up really, really quickly. So they made that call. So just make sure if you do have an AFLW membership and you're heading down for the men's, absolutely get yourself over to Whitten Oval and buy your tickets early, everyone, please. It is a good thing. Right, ladder implications. We are coming in 9th, right behind the top 8 there at 76%. Steve-O, you've touched on it a little bit, mate. Anything else to say here other than what ahead of us is important with the teams we're playing?
No, just that this, just like last week, just like the week after against the Bombers, I think all need to be won to stay in the contest for the finals. The season's too short and it's too tight. There's too many teams that are on almost the same wins. And there's some teams that have played 5 out of 11. That's almost half the season for those teams. And after this week, will it be pretty close to half the season? So, yeah, I think to have a realistic shot, this is one of the ones we have to get. Yep, for sure. Jen, the Bulldogs haven't had the best year this year, but they did knock off Collingwood and have clawed themselves off the bottom of the ladder. What do you think about the Bulldogs? How do you think their season's going?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a shock win. I think everyone thought that Collingwood might get them, especially with the Bulldogs. I think there's been a bit of chat about their list. Obviously, there's a lot of changes at the end of last season. I think something happened with the list management and not getting pen to paper early enough for a couple of players. So some of their key players have scattered around the competition. And then with Ellie Blackburn out with injury, that was a big loss again for them. She's such a superstar of the game, but it seems like a fair few players have stepped up for Bulldogs, particularly in that last game, or they're starting to really connect themselves. There are a couple of players in the team that I've played with before, particularly Riley Wilcox. She's a little small forward/wing. She is fast and she is very smart in front of the sticks. She looks like she shouldn't be able to kick it too far because she's only like 5 foot something, but she can kick it about 50 metres and she's speedy. Georgia Borg, I love her. She's such a wonderful woman. She is a ruck that can run and run and run all day. She's pretty dominant. And then I just looked up a bit of Isabel Pritchard's stat. She got a perfect 10 from the coaches' votes after that last game against the Pies. She's averaging 20.4 disposals a game. She's 7th in the entire league for metres gained, and she's up there with the top of centre clearances as well. So she's definitely someone we've got to do a shutdown job on. And then Elle Bennett's as well along the wing, who used to play for the GWS Giants. She can run and run and run all day. So they've got players in there. We can't think that this is going to be an easy win. So as Chris says, get down there. There's actually a massive car park down there. It's not hard to get a parking spot out at the Whitten Oval. So get down there, get around the girls.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen. I think it's time for predictions. We all know that it's all about. So, Steve-O, what's your prediction for this week? How bold are you going?
Pretty bold, because last week I said that, what did I say? I said that we needed to get 47 points in the black over 2 weeks to get us back to 100 percentage, and we only got 3 of those against the Giants. So that means we need 44 more of them against the Dogs, and they're coming off a rough run. I mean, this will be their 4th game in a 16-day block because they've got the midweek game that they've just come off. It'll be the 3rd game in 14 days for the Swans too, but 4 in 16 is worse. So wild, I think that hopefully we come in with some fresher legs and really run over them and get that percentage ticking up and pick up for the second half of the season.
So what's that, 44 points you're saying to the Swans?
Yeah, sorry, 44 points by the Swans, and I'll hold the following week's predictions until then.
See, I had to do that math on behalf of Steve-O without a calculator.
Yep.
That's just wild stuff by me.
This is why we got you here, mate.
Is there any reason? Jen, what about you? Bold prediction, or what are you saying?
I'm probably going a little bit more of a realistic prediction, but I do want to get that percentage up. I think we will have a win. I think the Swans will get over them. I'm going to say by 28.
Okay, 28. Look, that's a pretty acceptable one. I'm going to go for a 60-point win. Now, before you suggest that is incredibly bold, the Giants beat the Dogs in round 1 by 63. So there is a precedent here. We can do it. But as Jen described really clearly, there are some danger players over there, the Doggies, that we need to kind of calm down. Now, if you're not going down to Melbourne to watch the girls play, and if you're here in Sydney for Friday night, the best place to watch it is going to be the Ladies Lounge there in Oxford Street, which is a pub that exclusively looks after women's sports. So at any women's sports going around the country, that's the place to go. They will show it. It's what they do. So if you don't know much about them, absolutely look them up. Jump on Twitter, jump on Instagram, jump on Facebook, look up the Ladies Lounge, and then get over there and see it. You can Google it. It's all good. It is a really fun place, so make sure you go out there and support your girls in many, many ways. Now, one last thing. Look, Jen, I'll pass to you. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up for this week?
Ooh, no more that I want to say other than, let's make this a really great weekend for the Swannies in both the men's and the women's. But we're here to talk about women's. Come on, girls. Let's get that percentage. We want top 5. Let's jump up that ladder.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jen. Steve-O, over to you. One last thing. I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I've got another. A couple of weeks ago, I was on here congratulating one of my sisters who manages one of the Auskick centres in the area where they are, and they got voted or awarded as the best Auskick centre of the year for their region. And part of their prize for that was that their Auskick group got to go and play on the SCG last week at the men's prelim final between the Swans and Port. So Yeah, that was huge for the kids, and one of my nieces and a couple of my nephews have played there this year, and actually one of my nephews has played on the SCG twice this year. It's his first year of footy. He's 7 years old, and I tried to explain to him that it probably won't happen every year for the rest of his life, but you never know.
You never know.
Yeah, he's living it. I've never played on the SCG. I'm a lot older than him, but yeah, so really good on them. And again, a massive congratulations to all the volunteers that have run such a good season of footy everywhere in Australia.
With all respect, I feel that he's probably cuter than you, so I can understand.
He's quite a bit cuter than me. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
he's much more camera friendly. That's why we do this as a voice podcast, right?
I took a punt there by suggesting that. I haven't seen him, but yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Yeah, and I think the only thing I want to say is just reiterate then once again, if you're down in Melbourne, get out there and see the girls on Friday before the men's kickoff on Saturday. What a weekend for Swans football. All right, well, that wraps us up for this week. Thank you so much for listening in. If you've liked what we've done, you know what to do. Go out there, give us a like, give us a follow, jump into any of the socials that you have. And if you really want to say something, also just ping us a message, whatever you want to. Otherwise, we'll probably see you, or not, we will see you at Friday, Whitten Oval, cracking on with the girls, and as well as go the men's. All right, until then, up the Bloods, and can you Swannies.